This is going to talk about urban planning or urban planning accelerator in Japan. I will tell a few things about urban planning in Japan. First thing is a land pooling system, commonly known as a town planning scheme in Gujarat, from where I belong. So initially, after World War II, the land pooling system was implemented in Japan. Few of their bullet train line, they don't go for acquisition. Through land pooling system, they are excellently successfully doing the land apportionment. Second thing, we will be very interested to know the world average urbanization rate is 55%. Why in Japan it is 91%? So before we have a presentation by Dr. Prafula. So 91% is urbanization. If you talk about the Tokyo, when our honorable prime minister talk about 5 trillion dollar economy, the Tokyo itself has a GDP of 1.5 trillion. So you can just envisage the urban area and importance of urban area, particularly in Japan. And finally, we have suburb area, satellite town. But in Japan planning system, there are two zones. One is the urbanized zone and one is non-urbanized zone. There they put most emphasis to put various parameters and various restriction. That beyond the urbanization zone, it will remain the de-urbanized zone. And that is a set of regulation made for that. So Japan is a very, very developed country. And in Japan also the migration, if you talk about the last 100 years, to education, economy, and culture. For these three reasons, people are migrating to Japan urban areas. Finally, I will conclude with one thing. Particularly as a planner, we are planning the things either infrastructure or traffic transportation or public housing or zonal restrictions or various other things. But what we found, the lack of civic sense, particularly. So, for implementing and then finally put them in a proper percolation to the citizen, a civic sense is must. And I have found in Japan, when during, I think 3 years before I visited Japan, when you are waiting for a pedestrian pathway or a zebra crossing, so if you are from right side, you have to make a queue on right side, and opposite direction there will be queue on left side. So during that period of some 15 to 35 or 40 seconds, you don't collide with each other, and they make the queue for zebra crossing. So that was very much amazed when I saw some things. So finally, I will conclude my remarks, and I think Dr. Prafula will enlighten us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel, for your address as a chief guest. Now I have the privilege to invite Shri S.B. Kulankarji, Secretary General ITPA, to deliver his address. Good afternoon, everybody. Chief guest of today's program, Shri N.K. Patel, President ITPA, Professor Dr. Ashok Kumar, Dean Academy, SPA Delhi, Chairman of today's program, Shri J.K. Kapoor, Secretary DRC, and Shri Amit Kumar was supposed to be here. He is Treasurer of DRC, so he will be joining us online in virtual mode. And as said, Chairman Dr. P.S.N. Rao is out of session. He is away to Northeast, so he was not able to make it today here. Today's speaker, Professor Dr. Praful Parlewa, Professor of Urban Planning, SPA Delhi, and all the esteemed participants who are physically present here and those who are participating in the online mode. I welcome you all on behalf of ITPA for today's event of Talk on Urban Planning in Japan on the occasion of annual general meeting of Institute of Town Planning. Friends, I will not touch upon the issues which are already covered by Patel sir. I would like to just give some brief about the ITPI. There are more than 7,000 planners registered with the ITPI, and ITPI is also a member of the Commonwealth Association of Planners. Professor Dr. Mishra, President Emeritus ITPI, is the present Vice President of Commonwealth Association of Planners. And ITPI is very actively participating in the activities of CAP. ITPI also has been nominated in the Governance Committee of CAP, and ITPI has created Young Planners Forum and Women's Forum under the CAP, who are also participating in the CAP activities. Friends, planning practices in India are well established and have certainly provided better environment in our cities through plan development. But still, lot needs to be done, and implementation of the plan proposals and preparation of master plans for all the cities and towns remains a gray area. But hopefully in the future, all these issues will be addressed and India will be a front runner in the planning practices with various central planning missions like Smart City, PMAY, Hriday, all these being implemented in time-bound manner. the issues of employment of planners are also being taken up in various states by ITPI. And recently there was a committee and report which has been produced by the NITI Aayog, which also emphasizes on employment of planners, and they have identified areas and also the number of planners which are required for the future in the country. So I think Mr. Srinivas was also there with the NITI Aayog. Professor Dr. Mishra was also a member of the committee, and the report has come out very well. Now the analysis will take, and some further activities in regard to this report are being taken up, and probably Srinivas knows it better. So during the course of discussion, we can also throw some light on that, and on the highlights also, Professor can enlighten us about. About employment of planner, the ITPI has taken various steps to inform the various states to do the employment as early as possible and fill up all the posts, and hopefully some better opportunities will come through for the planners in the near future. I wish the planning fraternity and all my fellow planners all the best in future. About the today's speaker, he is a he has recently joined the SKJT as a professor in urban planning department, and so we have requested him to kindly enlighten us, because he has worked in various fields abroad. Like in Japan, he was there for quite some time, and before that, during my talk with him, he told that he did some good work in USA also. So probably he is wanting to share his experience in Japan today with us. And in these words, I would not like to take much of time, and I would like to welcome you all and thank you all. So after that, Ashok Kumar will take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your address, Mr. Kudampati. May I request the chairman, Dr. Ashok Kumar, to give the Mr. President, Secretary General, as both of you have suggested, let me also add my remarks. ITPI has made huge progress since its establishment. Some of the achievements you have mentioned, I would also say that part of that achievement is indicated by the number of membership, that is members that is growing every year. That is one indication, but there are a number of achievements. Both of you have listed those achievements. I would agree that our influence in local bodies, in state governments, is also increasing, and that should expand a little further, so that the decision processes are influenced as per the ideology of the ITPI. Today I'm here as a former chairperson of the DRC. It is my proud privilege to introduce my younger colleague and newly appointed professor of urban planning in SPA Delhi, Professor Dr. Prafulla Bardewar. He was recently appointed as Professor of Urban Planning in SPA Delhi. He has very distinguished educational qualifications and practical experience. He did his PhD from Shiba University in Japan from 2004 to 2007, and master's degree from SPA Delhi 97-99, and then he had PhD also VNIT Nagpur, that was done between 1991-97, and he has worked really globally. If I have to name few of the countries, these are US, Japan, UK, Mexico, Vietnam, South Korea, Slovenia, France, and Myanmar. So these are some of the countries where he worked. He has long experience since he graduated as an architect. Today, we'll speak on urban planning and urban regeneration in Japan. Urban regeneration is the talk of the town, as you might have seen in the Master Plan 2041 also. We find these words. But like he has suggested in his brief biodata that I have here, that urban regeneration has not been practiced too much in India and has very good practice. Has not been very successful. I would suggest one reason for this late introduction of urban regeneration in India is because we were busy building new cities, new towns all the time. We built from 1947 till about 1950, we built one of the largest number of new towns in the West. Globally, we were the leaders. Of course, US, USSR, UK were placed before us. But nonetheless, we were doing various other things. So now, capital is coming into the country, and India has become one of the fast growing economies, and now it is picking up. So in this environment, urban regeneration becomes an appropriate topic for discussion. Welcome, Mr. Professor Dr. Prafula Parlevar to the IPI. We have already met in the SPF, but perhaps this is your first lecture for the ITPI, and we are hoping that you will deliver many more in the near future. So I welcome you to the DRC, to the ITPI, and I will hand over these few words of introduction for Professor Parlevar. I will hand over to Dr. Kapoorji for further proceedings. Thank you. Should we go down? Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much to all the persons who introduced me, and also Kapil sir, who rightly told about some of the things which has happened in Japan in the past, and gave us more information about how urban planning in Japan is happening. I'm glad I'm here. Thank you very much, ITP, our members, council members, secretary and president. I will start my presentation on the urban planning topic. Lakshmi. I will start my presentation on the topic for today's urban planning in Japan. I will present two cases of a city called Nagahama and Kawaburi. I've been working on these two cities for quite a long time. My colleagues in Japan. It's quite important today in India, like what we are seeing as an urban planning. Since we came, our independence came just maybe not more than 50 or 60 years where we are talking. Many countries, developed countries like USA and Japan, has developed excellence in urban planning. Perhaps our planning ideology during the British period, what we continue today, maybe we have certain footfalls, or maybe we have certain things which we have not been able to implement in our system. But I feel like today's discussion, I try to raise a question like how urban planning in India can be improved. What can be the ways we can do? So I will try to demonstrate today small projects which I have done with innovative methods where people have developed new methods of private participation. And these are the two examples of Nagahama and Kawaburi. The content of my today's presentation is like, first I will talk about urban planning in general in Japan. Then I will talk about the country profile, history of urban planning. I will talk about the urban planning process, then the urban legislations and land uses, what is the way it has been planned in Japan. Then I will start with the case of Nagahama and Kawaburi. And in Nagahama, I will discuss about the city profile, a development of a company which has been developed to revitalize, regenerate the city of Nagahama. Of course, urban regeneration is a very important fact. I'm specialized in urban regeneration. After my master's, I continued in Japan, mostly in field of urban regeneration. And both these cities are quite an interesting example of urban regeneration. Then I will explain you in urban planning framework how these cities were regenerated and how the urban planning and urban regeneration framework were innovatively used in these two cities. If we talk about a general profile of Japan as a country profile, you will see in Japan there are around 47 prefectures, 779 cities, 841 towns, 196 villages. Urban planning in Japan is primarily known in Japanese language as machi-zukuri. Machi-zukuri in Japanese word, machi means a town and zukuri means making something or planning. So machi-zukuri literally means a city planning or urban planning. In Japan, if you look into the area as such, it's very small, but the overall annual budget for planning is very high. And also, like if you look into the, like as Sir said, the urbanized population is so high in Japan. The main reason is the most of the people are living in the urban areas. If you look into the history of urban planning in Japan, in fact, before the World War II, Japan was not at all good in terms of its overall urban planning. The City Planning Act and the Building Act was the only existence in Japan, which was used for land readjustment and control of construction. But also during the World War, the City Planning Act and the Building Act continued. After 1968, the new Town Planning Act was introduced in Japan. The main innovation of the Town Planning Act was actually notifying the urban areas and also increasing the public participation. The new Town Planning Act went into numerous amendments, and these amendments went in 80s, 90s, and 92 and 2000. And most of these amendments went into redevelopment of urbanized area, environmental problems, revitalization of urban center. Sir was right that he told that most of the time we were designing new towns. In Japan, it happened different, other way around. Most of these cities were old cities. Population didn't increase, so they didn't put too much effort to plan new towns. For them, the most important exercise of planning was to redevelop cities. After the World War, war-torn cities like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, or most of the deteriorated cities. Today also, Japanese population is not growing that fast. So because of that, most of the old cities are very much focused for the planning. As I said, like in this process, finally Machi-Zukuri was a kind of a movement which started from 1960 to 1973. And this is a system of urban planning which is like a community-based system which is practiced in Japan. If you look into the urban planning process, a kind of a master planning process, and how the way the cities are planned in Japan, generally the city planning area is first designated. The planning decisions are made, and then the master plan is established. This is what we also do here. But what happens is, like, when all these decisions are made, the application of city planning towards the execution of the projects is very important. Some of the major problems in India, what we teach as an urban planner over here is we teach urban planning like just a planning process. We don't teach how the projects or how the actual urban planning will come on ground. Machi-Zukuri is something which tells how to do that, because it starts from grassroots level, like we call. Japanese call it like a Jumin Sangha, like a community based, from people for the people. So this is how in Japan they actually create a planning which is executable through Machi-Zukuri system. Now in this total planning process, if you try to understand, of course, all the land use regulations, urban facilities, urban development policies are framed. And also at a district, local levels, all the plannings are developed. Now let's try and understand how legislations are there in Japan and our legislation, or how we differ in legislations. If we divide Japanese legislation in different groups, it says about the group 1, which are at a national level. At national level, Japan has Spatial Planning Act, it has a Land Utilization Planning Act, the Capital Region Development Act, the Road and National Land Development Act. If you look into the group B, it has like a farming promotion areas, which properly focuses towards environment. Like, it focuses on farms, it focuses on forests, it focuses on not letting people exploit the open environment. And if you look into the group C, it is at a more urban area level. Urban land use acts, urban development projects related acts, urban facilities related acts. Now, what happens if you see a difference between our legislation and the Japanese legislation? Significantly, the Japanese legislation looks more into details. Our regulations, like what we have today, is at a very broader level. That is one of the reasons which is not allowing us to plan cities in a faster way, or it is not allowing us to execute a beautiful cities like what Japanese are doing. Now, if you look into this legislation in the group A, most of the national level controls provide very good control on cities. At the same time, the group B controls the nature. Why we see Japan has a beautiful nature? Because the farmlands, because the forests, they are conserved under a specific set of rules which should not get affected with the urbanization. Same way, there are lots of statutory provisions. As rightly so said, there are two areas in Japan. One is urbanization promotion area. Second is the urbanization control area. So urbanization promotion area is an area where mostly all the urbanization is promoted through land use, through public investment, urban development projects, land development permissions. But overall, in the urbanization control area is mostly agriculture, where they do not promote the use of drastic urban development and new type of projects. Even in the city planning taxes, which happens in the urbanization promotion areas, are levied, but they are not levied on the urbanization control area. Now let's try and understand a small land use classification, how it happens. Now, if you see over here in this figure, B is an urbanization promotion area, and D is the promoted for agriculture. Both of them are distinct, and this is what makes their city planning more distinct. The urbanization areas will control, the open lands and agricultural fields remains in the another control. This is how the land use is controlled in Japan. Now, if we look into the land use classification, What we do today, land use classification is of course commercial, residential, industrial, and number of mixed and so many other things. The Japan town planning does not allow this. They allow in a very different way many number of combinations of land uses. Like they allow the combination of land uses in terms of quasi type of areas. If you look over here, there will be a mid-rise oriented residential zone, a separate industrial zone or industrial zone which has equal possibility to introduce residences in between. And there are many number of combinations which can easily and also provides flexibility to the planners. The decision-making bodies in Japan are again very important. As I said, in Japan there is a national level body, the prefecture is another, and finally there is a third is the municipality. Most importantly, the urban planning role is played by the prefecture and the municipalities. The land use zones in a larger metropolis like Tokyo, prefecture decides and controls them. The public facilities at a smaller level, municipality decides them. Now, if you talk about the urban development projects, an urban development project more than 50 hectares is decided by the prefecture, and the urban development project which is less than 50 hectares is decided by the municipality. One of the very important facts is that the larger projects are controlled by a set of larger scale of planning management. Now, this was a just brief overview of the town urban planning in Japan. Now, I will take you to the two cases, which are basically more into looking into how in this urban planning, different innovative models has been implemented. As an urban planner, I always believe in one thing. As an urban planner, we know that city planning is like shaping, it's an art and science shaping cities. But most importantly, after so much of global experience, I came to know that urban planning becomes successful not without a public and private participation. Private participation is the only way you can make successful planning. It may be true in terms of United States, it may be true in terms of Japan. In fact, in India also, we became successful after when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh got so much private participation in infrastructure development. But when we talk about Japan, USA, and this kind of a developed country, they don't think just in terms of private participation in infrastructure, they think beyond that. And today I will show you one small example where a very innovative kind of a private participation shapes a city which was completely deteriorated with the passage of time. Nagahama is a historic city located in Shiga Prefecture. It's a small town of 58,000 persons with a square kilometer area of 45.5 square kilometers. The town is a very historic town. It is famous for, it's famous for its castles. It is famous for its historic places. It has a one very important festival which happens once in a year called Ikeyama Matsuri. Ikeyama Matsuri is Ikeyama festival, which is famous for young generation. If you see, this is where the Nagahama is located. This is the city plan of Nagahama. In 1970s, in around middle and late 1970s, a bypass road was constructed around this town. And because of that construction, the whole concentration of the town started around the bypass, because they started a development of large commercial complexes, shopping complexes, which eventually deteriorated the complete old town. The complete old town became kind of, all the town shops which were there in Nagahama became empty for quite a number of 20 years of time. This image shows the significant historic places when the Nagahama was regenerated. This is the general plan of Nagahama. This is also a map of Nagahama. Now, Nagahama involves a very interesting story as such, which is the regeneration of Nagahama. As I told you, urban planning in Japan is quite, like bottom to top approach and top to bottom approach. In Nagahama, the city has a vision to make a museum city plan, but it failed to become a museum city for quite a long time. Master plan was prepared, some district plans were prepared to make a museum city. Every time it failed. So, as there were the new rules and laws under the Redevelopment Act, an innovative company was formed in Nagahama. It was called a community-based company. Now, this is what is the freedom of Japanese laws, which provides a freedom to make at a grassroots level community-based companies. These community-based companies was called Kurokabe Company in Nagahama. The interesting story behind Nagahama is like this was the first building existing, and it was owned by a bank. It was in a white color. Japanese believes that black color provides fortune, so they colored this building. The Kurokabe company came and they said we will start regenerating Nagahama. And they colored this building black and they started the first renovation project and regeneration of the city. And how this private participation model happened at a smaller level. The Kurokabe company is a kind of a company which is having its own businesses. It has a non-profit organization and it has a project management and a real estate company. All these three things combines together. And this company was started in the city of Nagahama with an 11 number of investors. Around, say, suppose the investment of $2 million US, out of which 70% was the private investors and 30% were from the government of Nagahama. Now, when I'm talking about town planning company, it's called as a Machizukuri Kaisha, which is developed under the framework of Machizukuri, that is under the town planning framework. And this Machizukuri Kaisha, a town planning company, is a developer who conducts development, redevelopment projects, and is a management organization that continuously manages the towns for a longer period of time. Now, Nagahama has very interesting development with this, and I will show you how they finally redevelop Nagahama into a museum city in just span of maybe 7 to 8 years of period of time, which we planners fails to do in India. Now, in terms of institutional framework, if you see, when this small urban planning system was developed in Nagahama, there is a chamber of commerce. This is, if you see the dark gray, it is the role played by the Kurokabe company, town planning company, which has been developed in Japan. The chamber of commerce and the town planning company, citizen-based company, together work on developing businesses. The citizen-based company together works on promotion, exhibitions, events, and many more things inside the city. And finally, there is a town management organization, which is called TMO, which actually manages with the help of this private company. If you see, the regeneration of Nagahama happened in a short period of time. After 1989, the visitors to this city started coming in 2000, just in this span of period of time, it increased considerably. Nagahama is located on a Shinkansen line from Tokyo to Osaka, and it easily connects from Tokyo to Osaka, and many number of people visit Nagahama. And the company itself, a profit-based company, it started making profit annually and its profit doubled. And what they did was like change the complete businesses and preoccupy complete internal old town, which was completely degenerated due to the development outside the town. Something very important is in this process, in this town planning process, is this private person, how he regenerate. He regenerate the city by making a business cycle. The town planning organization, which is like a town management organization, it looks after the overall town. The Machizukuri Kaisha, the Kurokabe company or a community-based company, a private company, it continuously, keep on developing businesses. Then it keeps on taking the development profit, and finally it uses its own personal funds and development profits to regenerate the inner city areas. And you see in this the inner city areas have been changed drastically. The town management organization is one of the another institutional setup which is very innovative in Japan, which looks after the management of town, which looks after, there are many types of town management organization which works with city, its forum, and the town manager plays a key role in making the city. Now I will show you some of the way, how the city was shaped. These are the certain way the businesses were developed by the company. Each and every building once upon a time were unoccupied, they were deteriorated, but all this old area was completely regenerated by the Kurokabe company. The total city, which was envisioned as a museum city, now have numerous studios of glass. There are numerous museums. There are numerous glass shops, antique shops. This is one of the main buildings which I showed you, the white and black color which they made. They converted this building into a glass museum and shop. There are numerous glass studios over there. Means people from all over the Japan comes over there, stay there for 2-3 days, and then go back. Most of it, like people can come in morning and even go back in the evening. So the visitor patterns over there is very huge. Lots of good products are being developed now within the city. The city has become very famous as a museum city, as a glass museum city. It's known as a glass museum city in Japan. Numerous all age group of people. See, planning is effectively done so that visitors from all age groups can come over here to Nagahama. Even the care was taken during the planning that the existing old age groups, which is a very high number in Japan today, can be integrated in the complete planning process. And some flea markets, new employments were given to these people in Nagahama. So this is how Nagahama has become a very innovative business model, which we say, like I initially started, private participation is the only key for urban planning, urban planners, where you can do development faster. Now here what you see is a very innovative model of private participation to plan a city and execute a city within a short period of time. Similarly, I will show you one more city, which is a Kawagoe. Kawagoe is quite near from Tokyo. It's just like you can call fringe area of Tokyo. Kawagoe was also went under the similar phase of deterioration or degeneration of period of time. In 80s, a new community-based urban planning, again, Machizukuri was called for Kawagoe. The main objective was revitalize the old city, which is completely historic city. The goal is to conserve the historic building and take citizens in the conservation process. Here, Japanese thought in terms of innovative things like a community mart concept for regenerating the Kawagoe city. They invented a concept of having 3 pillars of Machizukuri. A pillar which is about design, a pillar which is about business, and third is about the scheme. The first thing is like the pillar about design, which restored the central areas and beautify the town and create public art and public spaces. Second was like about economy, which we talk about like how we can revive the traditional economy. And third is about how the Machizukuri company, like the one which I said just now, a private-based company, can be used for regeneration of the old towns, can be used in the regeneration of Kawagoe. Kawagoe is also a very interesting historic town. The complete management framework was developed in such a way that Kawagoe becomes. Most importantly, now let's look into Kawagoe. If we see Kawagoe and urban planning, the zoning regulations plays a very important role, as most of you urban planners know. Now, there is a distinct set of zoning regulations developed for Kawagoe in a very interesting way that the historic feature of Kawagoe is not lost. So if you see over here, of course, we always try to have transfer development right for the historic building. But for Kawagoe, not to destroy the old heritage, a kind of a zoning regulation has been developed so that all the old original character of the Kawagoe can be maintained. Now, this is what happened in Kawagoe in last 20-30 years when it was completely regenerated. The city became a vibrant city where now everybody from all over Japan comes over here to Kawagoe. Kawagoe, all this main street, which is known as Ichiban-kai, is now completely occupied with new shops. Numerous number of people comes over here. All these old buildings were restored, means many of them were completely deteriorated, they were completely broken. They were restored, and the urban planning framework was developed in such a way that the urban zoning, the zoning coding was designed for this building in such a way that this can be restored. If you see the one on top, That was the original building, and below is the restored original building. So Kawagoe, and same way, a visitor pattern was developed for all age group. And today Kawagoe is also one of the vibrant city. So these are some of the restored buildings in Kawagoe. If you see, Kawagoe is also today a very vibrant town. You can see a very funny picture over here, like what you see here, due to the zoning and the zoning regulations, the two buildings had to maintain their own original architecture. So two separate buildings maintain their own original architecture. This is how innovative zoning models are developed for historic city. Today also Kawagoe is a very interesting model. And finally, I will conclude now what exactly is the way we are talking about how urban planning in Japan is so effective. What I tried to explain today was like in the beginning, how the urban planning is in the overall context and how at a smaller micro level urban planning in Japan happens. So this similar model was utilized in many more cities by in Japan, in Sawara and all. This kind of a models is kind of a community-based private participation models. I believe today we urban planners regard the thing in very two ways. We are bound to a too much British system. Everyone thinks about British planning, nothing make a model, town planning, and it's only what we have in hand. Americans and Japanese are way beyond that. That is what is our shortfall. We require to see beyond our planning system. Even in United States, I work. There are so many new models. I worked on one of the models of community development banks, and that model is a very innovative model of private participation. So today, I think in this lecture, I further request or asking people how this kind of experience we can use in India. What is your ideas? Now, my presentation is complete. I ask from the audience to ask questions and make a good, fruitful discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Excellent presentation, very illustrative, useful experiences with two case studies. Now the house is open for questions, few questions. Yes, please.
Thank you. It's a really good presentation. We got to know a lot of things. In India, basically, the plan is divided into three stages. We call it PI: plan preparation, plan implementation, and plan enforcement. From your presentation, we got how the plan is prepared, how it is implemented. You talked about the implementable plans, but what is the procedure for enforcement? In India, our plans are failed because of poor system of enforcement. So what's your take on that?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. That is one of the biggest problem in urban planning in India, enforcement. When initially I showed you in Japan, there are so many laws, so many breakdown laws which we don't have. Okay, our system, because of our democracy, is so much free that people do not at all, have enough control. We do not have control on people. That is one of the biggest problems. Our zoning regulations are not sufficient. First of all, to tell you, like the way we have our zoning, we of course do a lot of detailing in our master plan, but they are not enough sufficient. Our institutional mechanisms are not sufficient. our police power is not sufficient. Smoking is itself a police power. You know, in Japan or USA, all the violations which happens are controlled by police, which we don't have that much power. So the enforcement in India and control over the urban development is not because of these kind of shortfalls in our urban planning. And to do that, we require intense, research or intense, not research, I should say, intense implementation of new rules, new laws, and also create a more kind of a system that our police have more power to control our cities, which is not at all existing.
Thank you. Just in the first or second slide, we use the term city master plan and digital master plan. But I would like to know what the difference. One. Second thing, of course, private participation is emerging. I want to know, because in India, most of the town planning acts are all the 32 acts in India. Hardly there is a sufficient provision for private sector participation. Because unless it is provided in the act, then it is a problem. Act like DDA, where the private participation. Try to amend it. I hope in Japan, most of the town planning act, this provision must be there. As you have rightly said regarding zoning, it was started as a police control in USA and in other countries also. So my question is going to be very simple, depends on that, and how the private sector participation can be inbuilt the planning laws and other laws which are controlling the planning mechanism in India. And regarding private sector participation, they had a community participation law, but it could not take off the ground. Although they had a guideline law, there was certain inbuilt provision. Already go, but it could not take off the ground. Then how can you say how the private
Thank you. For your first question, what is different between city plans and municipality plans? Almost it is almost similar, but mostly in Japan, they maybe make a much more smaller level plans, which helps them to take an action on immediate action in 3 to 5 years. Same like United States. As your second question, like it was about how community participation can be increased. In Japan, rightly, when the New Town Planning Act was developed in, when I said in 1980s, that time only they encouraged community participation. That is what is our shortfall. We are thinking after 60 years of independence now. First thing important is like, as you said in your third question, how we can introduce this kind of things in our master planning process and amendments. Of course, we do have institutional mechanisms. We require to think in a new way. As I shown you, the Kurokabe company, Machizukuri company. Today, private participation, this company is absolutely different. It's a small private, it's suppose in the Indian scenario, if we see a company, registered with registrar of company, which is based on certain specific investment and has certain number of directors. Okay. This company is saying something like that, a private company, which comes as a town planner, okay, to implement a plan of town plan, which has a certain different set of, rules. Now, we of course has a very less framework to develop these kind of things, but our master plans also do not have sufficient ways to make the community participation or private participation possible. Perhaps amendments are one of the things, but whatever rules are there, private participation can always be encouraged in master plan. The Model Town Planning Act doesn't say like we should not do, but we can always encourage private participation. In fact, we do. I think there are so many infrastructure private participation models we propose in our master plan. But we don't answer the question maybe that we don't propose these kind of models in our master plan. It's the problem. We already have many models of private participation. I rightly told you during the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, so many things we did, and that is only paved so much development in our country. Today also you see so many infrastructure is developed. it's amazing. It's just like developing like a foreign nations. So I think we do not have these new ideas. Even in United States, there are so many new ideas they are implementing within the master plan for private participation, community participation. Something here we are lagging in innovation.
Talking about the governance in our country. Okay, I'm talking about the governance in our country, talking about the state of talking about the top down or bottom side approach or any of the approaches starting from the Indian ministry to local levels. The institutions of the self-government, how the conditions they vary in Japan as compared to our system.
I think it's drastically different, but almost there is something like same hierarchies. Like we have at a national level. Initially, I showed you the institutional mechanism. It has a national level institutions which looks at city planning. It has prefectural institutions which looks at after the governance, and then it has a city level institutions which are looking at the governance. Something what is different in case of ours and Japan is like all the upper levels are highly active. The national and the prefectural governance is highly active in the city planning, which I think we do not have much in India. Like say suppose the state urban planning ministry, say we have like urban planning ministries in Maharashtra, or say suppose take a state like Maharashtra and we have urban development department in Maharashtra. The planning is done for a master plan from Pune, but the ministry do not have overall framework or involvement within the micro level or at a grassroots level. This don't happen in Japan. If we say like a state, a prefecture is like a state for Japan, but a prefecture is highly active in the urban plan. That is where we require an improvement, and that is where more institutions are needed in India. Thank in Japan, they break down now to prefectures and city levels. Yes, they have it. They have it.
I don't know what the proportion of allocation to the public was all out of the total allocation. On the India account, 4 to 5% of the total. Yes, we should see the size of the account 7,000 towns and 200
I don't have that much idea of this, but I think the allocation of budget for development is very high in Japan. It's very high.
We have a joint working group, Indo-Japan, and what Mr. Kapoor was saying about the violation. It's in our mindset. We can never so sensitive towards I would not like to compare
This last question is very interesting. I will tell you my experience. I think I came back from Japan and lived in India only, but already I have traveled from that I like India only. So, everyone says citizens in Japan are very polite, they respect everything, they do everything. In fact, we Indians are also like that. You know, what we town planners don't do, we don't create programs to make people aware. Now, I will tell you, there are so many good solid waste management models in India. Just recently came in 5-6 here. I live in Nagpur city. We have every morning a solid waste management a company, a car comes and it's sing a song on loudspeaker. Gadi wala aaya, kachra nikal. Okay, like that. Now, after I see that private participation model, that city has become completely clean, and no one throws, all the solid waste outside. When that car comes, when they hear the volume of that vehicle, they go and give it to them. How it developed, the manner developed very easy. And even the fines are not that high, just 200 rupees fine they charge. In Japan, if you throw outside, it will be more than 2,000 Indian rupees. So we are reluctant to create that planning awareness, or we do not create those things. Okay, it's very simple ways actually to do, and we think that that is not our role as an urban planner. We can create lots of programs. We can regularly create environment awareness. We can regularly create street cleanliness. The town management organization, which I was telling you, that plays a major role for this, and that institutions we don't have.
We have it, and then you have the second of the has the infrastructure transport, and also that will have a balanced impact on the real estate development in the mother city and the second. Thank you.
I think your last question, perhaps I will discuss with you more. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I will also require more discussion.
Thank you, Sir. I want to say a few things before we close. Just take a minute. First of all, let me congratulate Professor Pardewan.
Chairman sir, there's one question we have received from the participant who have joined online.
Okay.
This question is, how do you think that these strategies which have been adopted in Japan work in case of heritage city like Ahmedabad?
Okay.
I think it's possible in case of Ahmedabad. We develop, kind of new models for private participation. We develop new institutions, like town management organizations, which I was talking about. Again, like I have seen so many works in Gujarat, Surat, Ahmedabad. We don't require to make merely plans. We require to make a system to implement those plans, execution of those plans. Of course, we planners don't personally go and implement, but we create a kind of a framework. Because you see in Nakahama and Tawaga, we created that framework. I was working with my colleagues in Japan. It was framework created by planners to implement those projects. In Ahmedabad also, you require similar kind of innovative ideas, and you can always create this kind of innovative ideas in core city of Ahmedabad to revitalize the historic core. These ideas require to look into completely from the revitalization plan till the zoning codes, how the new codes will define the urban area, and then create a private model which will continuously create a cycle of regeneration. And finally, this cycle will continue, and in a short span of 10 years of time, the city will be completely a modern city or a historic conserved area.
Sir, any other question on that?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would like
Thank you. Again, sir, very quick last question. This is the last question. I simply want to know the opinion of Professor on development of Delhi and development of Tokyo. The development in Tokyo is in form of skyscrapers, and in Delhi we are not so high rise. We are in process of making the master plan for Delhi. So what is your opinion?
Yes, sir. See, this is what again, our British town planning system has given us. A Delhi city which do not have tall skyscrapers. If you look at American cities, New York, Washington, or any of the American cities, the American town planning rules provide a distinct set of rules for downtown developments. And they allow FSIs, they allow new systems for downtown. In Delhi, we never did all these planning principles. We never accepted, adapted new town planning principles. We are between the walls of our, again, the British town planning principles. That is the reason we do not see tall buildings. Simple reason. But most importantly, we require to plan cities, or maybe we require to understand in Indian context how downtown development happens in America, okay, or in other countries, and how we can use that kind of a development as a in cities like Delhi.
So my question was a little different. I wanted to listen from you. See the kind of development we have in Tokyo, and the kind of development in Delhi. Would you prefer that we should go also in the pattern of Tokyo, that for our skyscrapers and all?
Sir,
I mean, how do you compare them?
okay, you want to say how we compare that? Okay.
When we didn't do his PhD on Tokyo. No, but Japan, when we are talking about Japan.
Okay, just last word. Yeah, I will just say last word. I think, city of Tokyo is planned in a very vibrant metropolis. Perhaps it's a very ideal role model for Delhi. We should plan something similar to that to create an ideal role model. Because, transportation in efficiently designed. You can get any kind of metro station. Just walk from here till the gate of the city, you will get there. This is how, cities are planned for peoples. And many sectors, Tokyo is a huge role model for many people. I have worked on revitalization. Various other areas in Tokyo. I see Tokyo has very vibrant town planning. In Delhi, we lack
For an excellent question answer session. I have questions for you. But no one is talking. A lot of money in Japan, very little population, and comparing with India won't be really the right thing to do. Japanese economy in the 70s grew much faster than Indian economy. We never had that kind of money. Now we have money, and we are beginning to make changes. Culturally, they are very different. We are a culture of informality rather than planning. This is a formal activity. We want to do everything informally. So consequences are in front of us. Even with a lot of money, still our cities would remain rather informal. And politics, of course, we will discuss. Thank you so much for delivering this excellent lecture. Now I hand over to my colleague, Usa. Last session, may I request Amit Kumar to propose more of text. I think he is joining online. He is not there. Amit, are you there?
Good afternoon. Sir, am I audible?
Amit ji, you can switch on your video also.
Sir, am I audible to you?
So he is connected.
Sir, am I audible to all of you?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, respected dignitaries on the dais, my senior, my colleague, and and participants. Good afternoon, all of you. On the behalf of Delhi Regional Chapter ITPI, it is my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. Firstly, we are thankful to our chief guest, Shri N.K. Patel, President ITPI, for sparing his valuable time and sharing his experience on land pooling for bullet train project and how civic sense is important in planning. Also, we are thankful to Shri S.B. Khodankar, Secretary General, our guest of honor, for sparing his valuable time and sharing the role and achievement of the ITPI and how ITPI is working with the states for employment opportunity. And we are also extremely grateful to Professor Dr. Prafulla Parlevar, SP New Delhi, for excellent presentation enlightening us on urban planning process and urban regeneration in Japan. He's also talk about the public participation, how the public participation role of public participation in planning, and he's also emphasis on community-based practices in planning, and, with the help of the 2 case studies, and also we are thankful to Shri Ashok Kumar, former chairman DRC, for coordinating the event and giving critical views on the urban regeneration. Professor Dr. Prafulla sir, I want to make one point. Urban regeneration, this is one of the important policy in our Delhi Master Plan 2041, which is under preparation, and we have also prepared one policy. Delhi Development Authority has prepared policy on urban regeneration, which is a part of the draft master plan as on date. And our special thanks to Dr. Meshram sir for his support, guidance in making making this program possible and sharing his time for us. Last but not the least, we would like to thank the audience for making this event successful. Hope the knowledge gained through this program will help us in future course of action in planning. Thank you all. Thank you very much, sir.
All the participants who have joined online, we will resume the annual general meeting at 2 o'clock. So after the lunch, kindly reconnect yourself on the same ID for AGM. Thank you.
Thank you. For lunch at the hostel.